I love everything about where I am. But what I don't love is that I don't have a life anymore. So nothing is, I can't do anything. I mean, I can't get to the airport and want to, but once you're getting, people are kneeling down, Pastor, pray for me, Pastor, and all of that. Breaking it further down, because when we say prayer, it sounds like it's something very abstract. It's just communication with God. So this is almost like asking, what is the place of communicating with God in ensuring that you have a successful life? Altogether, direction, whether it's empowerment, whether being able to find a compass for living, navigating through the tides of life, they are all tied to how effective we communicate with God. And so because we have understood that the systems of life, the way the life is structured is essentially, first of all, very spiritual before it is physical. And so men who just live their lives physically would always become victims to the structures and systems of life. So, but when you understand that the very essence of life is spiritual, very essence of life, living itself is spiritual, being able to understand the dynamics and the workings of life is spiritual. So that is why our plug is in the spiritual. So the spiritual actually controls the physical. And so the role of prayer in living a successful life it is through prayer that we download the revelation, the vision, the understanding, the wisdom. Whatever it is that we need, it comes from the place of prayer so that we can function effectively here on earth. Like I said, it is communication with God. And it is not just vain babbling, as it were, but you are releasing a communication that in turn downloads what it is that you desire. And then you find yourself coasting and cruising in life.
Amazing. You're so passionate about this.
Oh yes, I am. In fact, that's why my voice is the way it is. So I love to pray, because there is nothing as powerful as knowing that you have answers. Now you're not just praying, but you have answers. The dead are coming back to life, the blind are seeing. And never a time has it begun to make sense, or has it begun to make sense that now, when you are not just praying for people, but you are leading them to pray. You pray yourself. So it's not just, oh, Pastor, pray for me, oh, Pastor, pray for me. You come on board and join the prayer so that you yourself can also activate your own answers by yourself. Because it's either you're leading a community, or you are in a home, or you're part of a system, or you're part of an office and all of that. Enough of getting those, you pray for me, you pray for me. Come and join and pray for yourself and receive answers as well. And that's exactly what I believe in. I'm passionate about it. And we have been messed up by the devil for too long. And that is because all that happened was that the devil spread weaknesses to our prayer lives. You know, people, you can do every other thing. You can be on Netflix forever. You can watch movies and all that. But when it comes to prayer, you just go like, I don't know where to begin. But when I see what is happening, when I see millions of people getting in, getting passionate, and people are excited, they can't wait for the next day so that they can pray. Not for them to see Netflix, not for them to see the latest movie. My goodness, this is revival at its peak.
I'm talking about that. There are lots of distractions these days.
Yes.
Everywhere. People are distracted. What do you have to say to young people?
Well, the truth of the matter is that never a time has it come for the potentials of young people to scream louder than ever than now. And I want to say that we must understand our lives to mean more beyond where we are. Right? I'm a young person, so and when I ask myself, if I were distracted, the millions who are finding a reason to live and find direction for their lives, the government of nations who are connected to what we are doing, would there ever be a time where they would have found the kind of courage, compass, direction they are getting from us? So every young person must understand that your distraction is costing a generation their destiny. So it is not necessarily you We're not talking about you alone, because you can afford to be distracted, but you do not even have the understanding of what it means to your family, what it means to your destiny, what it means to everyone around you. Interesting as it may seem. Now, in the past 1 year or two, that's where everyone around the world began to hear about Pastor Jerry, Pastor Jerry. But I want to let you know that in the past 13 to 15 years of my life, I had always prayed all through the night till morning. All through the night till morning. Now, these were years, permit me to say this, of lack of distraction that has snowballed into what people call fame right now. But then again, it's that. So at every point in time, you must realize that your focus will always pay off. And if a life of focus rewards you, it means make your focus laser sharp. So if I'm focused right now and my focus is rewarding me, all that God is saying, listen, don't relax because your focus, make your focus laser sharp. Redouble your focus again. And so the solution to issues, whether they're issues we complain about, is young people. You know, it's young people, because we complain, oh, the older generation, they won't let the young people come up. They won't let them, because the young people themselves, I do not think that they have received so much capacitation by speaking to themselves, by owning up, like acting like the Extras and Daniels of their generation. Now going out there to say, you know what, I am responsible. They are not responsible, because there is a way I will be responsible. Things will align. I wouldn't have to complain, because the question right now is, who is responsible? And until we stop the blame game of us and them, and somebody says I'm responsible, that is when we're going to be unlocking new portals of change.
Amazing. I believe you're getting inspired here. It is possible to change your story. Focus is what eliminates distraction. Even the Bible says that a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And you have been an inspiration to countless people all over the world. Tell us your story.
Okay, so the question is, where do I begin from? So like you rightly said, I was born 39 years ago to a single mother.
Amazing.
So my mom was a single parent. So we grew up in a very poor home. I know people say it's very generic for all these people who get lifted to say I grew up. I sincerely wish I could have changed the narrative and said I grew up in a wealthy home. So whenever people become known, they say I grew up in a poor home. But that's the truth. I grew up in a poor home. The kind of poverty that poor people would tell you are poor. So we were almost at the lowest ladder of poverty, you know, because my mom was a single parent. And then that is how my journey began. So somewhere at about when I was 7 or 8, at about then, so my sister took me to a church, you know, and that was where I gave my life to Christ, as early as that. So I walked in there and I just saw people, you know, praying. There was no electricity in that place, so but there was candle. I remember so I kept crying. I kept crying. And I can't really say someone preached, but I kept crying. I just gave my life to Christ. So, and that day a woman prophesied. You know how all these old people who prophesy. So while church was going on, she said she saw Jesus holding me there to the heart, you know, and then the rest is history. And so, and we grew up literally on the streets, you know, where it was hard because it was my mom alone. It was hard to get 3 square meal. Did I say 3 square meal? That's luxury. I probably will be talking about 1 square meal. It was hard for us to come by 1 square meal. So, and this is what I said, which some people try to misunderstand. So, and I said, you know, being in that place where all we had was God. So, there was nothing to turn to. My uncles at the time, you know, were a little well off, but they didn't care about us. So all that mattered was to turn to God. So I remember Punch newspapers carrying an interview that I said that poverty, you know, drew me to God. So this was the point I was trying to make, you know. So, and we had no one else to turn to. So I just went to God, you know, and then we depended on God. God determined our everyday life, and that was how our journey began. And then in the church, I met a kind couple, you know, who just took interest in me, and they decided to send me to school. So, and that's how I went to school, and that's how I graduated, and that's how but then again, my mom, living with my mom kept telling me that the call of God was on my life. And I mean, I didn't understand what she was saying, because all I wanted to do was to bring my family out of poverty, and all of that. So interesting, I finished with school, and then I got a job. I got a job with a media house, So at the time, I was reading news on television, So I was very excited about that. So, but when I graduated, this was before I went to the university, because I wanted to work hard and earn the money, earn a living, so to speak. So, but when I came out of the university, I got a job with the World Bank project on HIV and AIDS, and then did that for a few years, and then I went to work for the United Nations, UNFPA specifically. It was my last job, before I resigned into full-time ministry.
Amazing.
So yes, and that was how my journey began. But in between all of this, I've been doing ministry, I've been loving upon God, I've been doing so, and every now and then I saw God literally stretch me. Like I said to you, over the past 13 to 15 years of my life, I have found myself in the corner where I didn't understand why God wouldn't let me sleep every night. I just kept praying till morning. I didn't know that it was because of the weight of responsibility that was going to come in time. So it generally began to stretch me. So, and I was tucked away in one little very calm city, called Umuahia, Abia State. So I usually would describe it for people, because people don't know where it is. So I usually tell them that if you get to the end of Nigeria, you turn left. That's actually where it is. So that was where I was. And then everything began to happen. God began to, when I thought I had the best of all jobs, working with the UN, and I felt like, I'm going to, and God says, walk away from the job. And I'm like, oh my goodness, God, do you mean this? I should leave this. So it was a struggle until the day I walked away from the job. I never forget, as I was driving, I cried a whole lot, but I knew that it was time. I didn't know where I was going to, but I knew where I ought not to be. Yes, there are times in destiny you don't know where you're going to, but you know where you shouldn't be in. So at that point in time, I knew where I shouldn't be in, but I didn't know where I was going to. So then again, the rest is history. So from there, then one day, I just saw God begin to do everything. So let me not say, I believe you have more questions to ask me. So, but that's my journey in brief, right?
Okay, did you have a mental picture of where you are today?
No.
Talking about, okay, let me add this, talking about NSPPD.
Yes.
Now, that was how I found out about you.
Yes.
Sometime during the lockdown.
Yes.
I just stumbled on you somehow on my wall. Somebody shared it,
Yes.
And I was like, who is this person?
That's right. That's right.
So did you have a mental picture?
No, how would I?
How did it happen?
I don't know. I don't know, to be very honest. I mean, if you look at me, you know that I'm a very chill, laid-back person. I didn't have an idea. I was just loving upon God. So what led to NSPPD, as it were, is that I've always known that God was asking me, go and do something, go and pray with people online. So when, first of all, God gave me the inspiration, I said to my wife, go do it. So she started a midnight prayer online at the time, So, but I didn't feel convinced I was the one, because to be very honest, I guess this is the very first time I'm saying it for people to hear. I never wanted people to see the prayer part of me, because I felt like it was a bit too wild, So because my demeanor does not exactly reflect like my very lionic prayer attitude. So I didn't want people to see that. I still wanted them to see me. So I wanted to be more of a word person, very well packaged, but I knew when the lockdown came, I tried to call a few of my members, and I said to them, okay, let's strategize on what we're going to do, especially the admin of the church, and they were volunteers, and they said to me, Pastor, we're sorry we can't come because of the, I'm like, are you kidding me? You can't come to church? But I mean, the rest is history. Whatever I was saying, they were not even paying attention, to what I was saying. So at that time, I just spoke to my wife and another pastor in my church. And I said, you know what, we're going to be going online. So my wife was supposed to do 3 days and the other pastor would do 2 days. Let me just go there. Let's keep encouraging people. Let's try to bring people on board, and all of that, So, but then again, this is what happens to a man who has thought power. power. So this is what happens to a man who God has been able to capacitate in the secret place. When your time comes, whatever you have stored, do you understand? Like if there's a time bomb here, right? Once the time of the time bomb comes, it just ticks off. Like you can't, like, so I was about to do something that was going to bring out all that was already inside of me. So as soon as that prayer thing started, bam, bam, you've put a lot in the inside. So it was just going to be fireworks. So like I said, we went to just pray and encourage people, but there was so much that was already on the inside, waiting for expression. So once that happened, we didn't go there to pray for people to receive miracles, dead to rise, blind to see, and all that. But then again, all of these things were already stored up in my spirit, man. Like joke, boom. Everything all just came alive. Yes.
It just happened.
Yes, everything all just came alive.
Talking about what God cannot do.
Yes.
Does not exist.
Yes. Yes, it is everywhere. It is something that I saw. It's actually a slogan we've been using many years ago. Yes, in my church. It's something that the Holy Spirit, ministered to me about many years ago. So we've been using it in our own very sublime way. What God cannot do does not exist. What God cannot do does not exist. And yes. So it is not a statement. It is a statement. So it is not, we're not just making a statement, God cannot. It is where we are. It is not just a pronouncement. It is the life that we know. So, and that's exactly what it is.
Amazing.
What God cannot do does not, there's no way to describe it. It is just God himself at work. It is heaven itself at displaying the greatness of God's power. It's simply what God cannot do does not exist. There's no way. It is just talking about the glory, the entirety, the majesty of God, the capacity of God to revolutionize situations. Oh my goodness, where do I begin? Talking about NSPPD is to talk about life, talk about families, talk about change, talk about glory, talk about the finger in the hand of God. That is when you say talk about NSPPD. Talking about NSPPD is just talk about, I don't know, but it just comes alive. That's why people say, do you get tired at all? How will I ever get tired when it is all about the sum total of the fullness of God? I have seen presidents of the world literally come to their knees because of what God is doing on NSPPD. I have seen people see God from afar. It happens every Sunday that I see people traveling in from different countries of the world. Some come and travel back without seeing me, and they're just satisfied. I have come to go where what God cannot do does not exist headquarters, and all of that, and they pretty much just live. So it is a move. It is not about Pastor Jerry. It is a revival of the strange acts of God. A time came when people became extremely very apathetic. And people were wondering, do these miracles happen? These things are so people just became tired, so to speak. But a move. People are beginning to trust God. People are beginning to say, you know what, God can do this thing. So these things are not a lie. Now I don't have to be in a crusade, because it's a crusade that goes on every morning. I could just sit by my bedside and God will reach out to me. Broken spines will be aligned. I'll just be there, and people who can. This morning on NSPPD, and we just had a couple that were paralyzed. They woke up one morning and discovered that neither of them could walk. This is wickedness. I'm angry at the devil. I'm angry at the devil. I'm very angry. Couple that cannot walk. And they became paralyzed but right there on the prayer, God restored them. 51-year-old woman this morning gave a testimony how a 51-year-old woman is carrying a baby. It is indescribable. And the other one spoke about how her dead sister, stone dead, absolutely dead, was restored back to life. Indeed, what God cannot do does not exist.
This is so powerful. I believe you're getting inspired right now. This is so inspiring. What has been your greatest challenge, and how have you been able to overcome it?
I know this will sound cliche, right? I don't know that I see challenges. I don't know, and I'm being very honest with you. I'm a very I am a very positive person. I don't like people telling me about breakdowns. I always make something out of it. So right now, I don't know what is my challenge, what I could describe as a challenge, because challenge is something that you consider a little militating against where you're going to. So I do not see challenges. If anything has been challenging right now, is that I've lost the life I used to know. So like I was telling my PA this morning, I love everything about where I am, but what I don't love is that I don't have a life anymore. So nothing is I can't do anything. I mean, I can't get to the airport and want to, but once you're getting, people are kneeling down, Pastor, pray for me, Pastor, and all of that. So there are days like this morning, I just went out to have a shave, right there, boy, I'm like, so and I turned to my PSC, so now so life go the day. So is that how we're going to be living right now? Because everywhere you're not, you can't even manage one small laughter by yourself, like that kind of laughter that you want to just laugh and be okay. So you're laughing and somebody says he's laughing, why would he laugh? That kind of thing. So that's the only challenge. But if it is as in the devil is fighting, I know the devil is not happy with me. If I'm the devil, I won't even be happy with me. Do you understand what I'm saying? I know he's not happy with me. That one is not a challenge. I know people will not like me. If I'm those people, I'm not even sure I will like me, because from nowhere, where did this guy come from? So those are not challenges enough. Some Christians, some Christian or Christian ministers will not like the way God is there. It's not a challenge. Like I said also, if I'm in their shoes, I don't know where this young man that God is bringing from nowhere. So those are not challenges for me. My eyes are on the ball. I believe that life is short. I know we are all praying to have a long life and not die. But it's all up to the Maker to determine how long we're going to stay on earth. Yeah. I want to be remembered as one young man who kept his eyes on his vision and on his goal. No matter how imperfect the journey was, but he kept his eyes on his vision and his goal, gave it his all, and died at his duty post. That is what I want to live for.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. What is your most urgent and pressing message to a young Nigerian watching you?
Never live your life without understanding that you have a mandate to fulfill. Please, to every young Nigerian who is listening to me, it's urgent like life. It's urgent like life and death. You have a mandate to fulfill, and there are destinies tied to you. And may you say on the day of your death that you died empty. That you didn't die understanding there were visions and dreams stored up in your spirit, or in your body, or in your soul, as it were, that you were not able to let out. But you must understand that there is a mandate on your life. And when people understand that they are running with a mandate, they act like if they don't fulfill it now, something is going to go wrong. So to every young Nigerian, you must understand there's a mandate. We must fix this nation. We must make it work. Nobody will do it for us. We will be the ones to do it.
Amazing. Finally, for someone watching you right now who is confused about life, who is frustrated, in Nigeria right now, every day you wake up to bad news, what word of encouragement do you have to such a person?
The truth of the matter is that Jesus didn't resurrect until he died. I do not think that bad news is a sign that things are getting destroyed. It's a sign that some change makers are rising. If there was never a COVID, maybe my name will never be as loud as it is.
True.
Right? So, and I do know there's another Jerry Eze in one corner. Will he take responsibility? Will he understand that there's a solution that is stored up in his spirit man? Will he dare to try? Will he get out of the box? Will he be bold enough to confront the situation? And so this is how we can be part of the change cycle. So you don't sit down and just say to yourself, oh, things are just spoiling, I don't even know. Can I take ownership? Can I be responsible? Can I say, you know what? I can even be part of this change cycle to make things work and all that. So when it is getting worse, there are change makers who their season of manifestation has come. All they just need to do is just to step out and be all that God wants them to be.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being here today.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much. I hope you have been so inspired. No matter what you're going through right now, always remember that you can change your story.